Tim here with my day 26 keto diet update. And scales, why are you doing this to me? I actually checked my weight since yesterday and I'm actually up 0.7 of a kilogram, which is 1.5 pounds. So yes, my initial reaction was, oh, how annoying. But then I got to thinking and sort of sat back and reflected on where I was at in the past with this and the research I'd done, and I did some more research because Kathy messaged me yesterday to say that she started a keto diet and is around about 3 weeks into it and hasn't lost any weight. So I figured it was about time, given that situation and about given what happened then to me the next day, today, gaining 1.5 pounds, 0.7 of a kilogram, to look into this further to see what is going on. So firstly, from my point of view, and actually incidentally from Kathy's, because she sent me her details of what she's eating, she seems to be pretty well spot on with what she's eating in terms of the types of the food. And I think I've shown you before on the videos that I've done that I have actually had some of those sugar-free chocolate bars and so forth. But overall, I'm eating a relatively healthy diet. We're doing the right things with keto anyway. And it's interesting with the weight gain, but it turns out there can be a number of reasons. It's certainly not uncommon for people doing keto to not necessarily lose weight straight away, or particularly in my case, where I'm in week 4 and 5 and so forth, where the weight loss or virtually stops or actually goes into negative. In other words, you start gaining a bit of weight. So a few reasons, and I don't necessarily know which one that I fall into, or in Kathy's case, or anyone else out there who's watching this video who's not losing the weight they want to lose. It could be any of these things. Firstly, a build-up of waste in your body. Your body may not be expelling all the waste, and you might be actually holding it in your body. So if you're not going to the toilet regularly each day, and it's certainly peeing, that's no problems, because if you're drinking plenty of water, you'll be naturally flushed out. But if the other waste isn't being flushed out of your body, you can actually be holding a fair amount of weight of those, of that waste basically. So one of the things you need to make sure you do is eat vegetables, and particularly things like spinach and broccoli seem to be particularly good at moving that. So it could be that you're just losing weight, but it's all being stored in this waste because you're not flushing out. So check how regular you are, and if you're not regular, on at least a daily basis, that could be something for you to consider. Start eating more in vegetables. And I have to say, the last couple of days I've cut down on the amount of vegetables I've had. Still having certainly low carb / keto food, so I'm certainly looking to up that again now to make sure that that's not an issue for me. That's number one. Second, it can be water retention. Even though, and I've talked about this before with weight loss, early on with the keto, you do tend to lose a lot of water. That's where a lot of your initial weight loss comes from. What can happen is that because you're basically making such big changes to your body, what can happen is that basically your body starts getting a bit concerned and starts trying to hold on to that water and not actually releasing it. So a lot of the weight that you may have lost ordinarily, you may actually, what I'm getting at is you might be losing this weight, this fat, but it's compounded by the fact you've got all this water. You're actually carrying a lot of water, so therefore, from your point of view, if you're just purely looking at the scales, you are not actually losing weight. So that can be another factor, and that tends to right itself, from what I've read, 5th or 6th week, your body tends to really sort of figure this thing out, which I've mentioned before. It can take a number of weeks to fully adapt to this ketogenic lifestyle, and that can be the case. So you can find that you get onto the first couple of weeks, it's wonderful, you are losing a lot of the water. But then after weeks 3, 4 and 5, or particularly weeks 3 and 4, and bear in mind that I'm actually in week 4 now, what can happen is the body starts trying to hold on to the water because it's seeing that, okay, there's a problem here, I'm not getting, I need to hold on to it. There could be a problem here basically, so it's holding on to it. And even though you might be losing the fat in your body, again, the weight can be offset by that water. So basically the net result is, as far as you're concerned, if you're purely just looking at the scales, you haven't lost anything, when in reality, you will have lost it. So for me, that's not a wake-up call, but it's certainly something to keep in mind, that I need to keep on doing this ketogenic diet. The worst thing I could do is just stop it and say, oh, this is crazy, I'm gaining weight, I've got to change my routine and do something else. No, we're going to keep basically what I've been doing, keep the same thing going, and get to the 5th and the 6th week, and it seems to then stabilise, and you'll find a more consistent weight loss. But bearing in mind, there still will be stalls, there'll be periods, plateaus where your weight may not go down as fast as you'd like it, but that's the nature of the game. As I've mentioned before, you didn't gain this weight overnight, so it's not going to be lost overnight. But basically, you're on track, we're doing the right things. It's a long-term journey to getting there. Thirdly, there can be another reason, and not actually eating enough. Now, this sounds a bit funny, but with keto diets, that actually is a distinct possibility, because of course one of the things is that you're not hungry. So by not eating enough, you can be putting your body into starvation mode, where it's sort of then thinking, well, I'm not getting enough nutrition and not enough food here, so I'm going to hold off and I'm not going to release that stuff. So keep all that in mind, that that's a possibility. It could be any of those factors that are actually causing this. So that's that. That's the 3 factors that I've found that people are actually really coming up with, the factors that are really causing that weight gain. The main point in here is just to make sure that you're actually following those, looking at those 3 scenarios and making sure they don't apply to you. Still drinking plenty of water and making sure you're still obviously eating a large amount of fat, but also you're not you're not discounting vegetables. You're still eating your share of vegetables as well, because that's really where we want that health to come back from eating vegetables and so forth. So that seems to be the main 3 things. So I'm certainly going to look at that. And there is also some talk about the actual calories. And I know that generally speaking, you don't really have to look at the amount of calories that you're eating per day. But what you should probably be doing is just checking out how much you are consuming, basically, and making sure that you're not going crazily over the top. There has been a lot of talk in the past that, generally speaking, the amount of calories you eat determines how much weight you lose, and it has to be a deficit basically with the amount of energy you burn. But it doesn't seem to really be the case anymore, because I've read of people who've done studies where they've basically eaten around about 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day and still managed to actually lose weight. So it's not as cut and dry as saying like you've got to have this many calories. If you don't have, if you eat too many calories, you're going to gain weight necessarily. You don't have to have a deficit in the true sense necessarily to lose weight. That's the reality that science is showing us these days. But with that said, there should still be an indication of how much what you're looking at. So I'm going to check out a few free websites. In the next couple of days, I'm going to post a video showing you how to use them. There's actually a good website called myfitnesspal.com, and I'll put the link on the screen and I'll put it in the notes. And that seems to be a good free site for you to track how much food you're eating, but also the calories in it, and also the breakdown of the protein, the fats and the carbs. You need to make sure that obviously you're hitting those 3, you're hitting those limits. Now, basically, again, generally speaking, we're looking for in about 5% of our total daily allowance to be in carbs, 30 to 35% protein, and the rest fat. So again, what could be happening is if you're actually mixing that up and you're eating too much protein or too many carbs, that again is another cause potentially for not losing the weight. So it's probably getting to the stage with me now where I'm going to actually start actively tracking that, and then I'll know for sure. Because at the moment I'm thinking that I'm doing the right thing, but it'd be good to have the evidence in black and white just to track it. And even just to know, even if you're not really concerned about the amount of calories, it would be good to know anyway how many you're having. So check out that site. There's also another resource which I remember finding before, and I'll try and find that and also include that in the notes and have a link on this page if it's not too long. Otherwise it'll just be in the video below, the description below the video. And that was actually a site where someone who who is on keto has basically told you how to configure that other site, that myfitnesspal.com, because one of the things you'll find with that website is it's not really geared towards people on keto. It's just a general thing, and they actually recommend a low-fat diet. So in other words, the default settings in that website aren't for keto, but this guy is basically giving you a step-by-step process on how to configure that website for keto. So I'm going to try and dig up that link and put that in the video description as well. So it'd be a good idea maybe for you to get into that if you've got any problems with weight loss, and to start actually tracking exactly what you're eating. And just so you know for sure, even if it turns out that you were spot on, what's it going to hurt by having that data there so you can track it and see where you're at. And this is actually recorded after I finished the video. There's one other point that I wanted to make, so I've actually inserted it in this point, and that's in relation to measurements, because scales in and of themselves aren't really the sole indicator you should be using. Particularly in my case, where I'm weighing each day, can actually be counterproductive, and it can affect your confidence. I mean, motivation when you see yourself gaining weight by weighing yourself every day, compare that to doing it weekly. And if I'd lost 3 or 4 pounds or 2 pounds or whatever it was for a week, I'd be happy. But seeing the highs and the lows can be counterproductive. As I've said earlier in a previous video, I'm doing this so you can track my day-by-day results. But do also take your measurements, and you'll find that myfitnesspal.com does enable you to take measurements. And that can be a good thing for you to actually be tracking, because you may not be losing weight, but you could be losing inches around your waist, your chest, or wherever. So again, that's a good indication because basically the fat is going. So the point is that it's not just scales. That's not just a scale victory we're looking for here. We're looking at an overall, we're moving to health, and you can be losing inches and not necessarily weight. And just one other thing I want to point out is sometimes it does drop in a big amount. As I've seen before, we've had that in the comments, and I've actually mentioned that in previous videos. We had a guy who for 4 days was a plateau, the same weight, and then he lost, I think it was 1.5 or 2.5 pounds literally overnight. So he was weighing himself every day as well. So that can happen. That is quite normal to get a plateau. And I've actually seen reading in various keto forums people who've even had a plateau of 1 or 2 weeks where they haven't lost weight, and bang, suddenly they've lost a number of pounds. This is the way that keto works. It's different to other diets, or I mean the other diets that I've been on. They haven't worked for the long term. But if you're obsessing about losing weight each and every day, I think that can be counterproductive. And look at the longer term picture. So consider doing that measurement or weighing yourself once a week instead of daily like I'm doing. That's another option just to make sure that you're on track. Okay, so that's day 26. So yeah, a bit disappointed with the weight gain, but that's part and parcel of this. And I'm certainly committed to continuing this diet in the long term, or this eating lifestyle. I don't like using the word diet. It's a long-term plan. I'm going to keep at it. And the further I get along with it, the more I'm convinced that this is the right way to go. But there are going to be ups and downs. And today, for me, that's my biggest weight gain since I started this 26 days ago. And onwards and upwards, I'm going to keep at it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click this button here. As you can see it on the screen now, that's the like button. Please do that. It helps spread the word and get other people to actually find my videos, which is fantastic. It's a win-win. Also, if you want to comment on my videos, please do so. That's over there, right over there. If you do that, I will actually respond to any questions you might have. And lastly, and probably most importantly, please subscribe. That's right, click that button right there now. You can do that right now while I'm talking, and you can subscribe to my channel, and you'll be updated automatically every time I release a new video, which is often. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another video soon. Cheers for now.